I haven't had my coffee or tea, so muniwie radi.
Okay.
Okay, Sam, go ahead.
So welcome for the sake of Amida and any person who's new with my person. My name is Saya Jackson. I am a human capacity development professional, and I specialize in coming alongside individuals and institutions navigating crucial transitions, and I support them so that they can maneuver those transitions without losing their voice, vision, or values. And this applies to the areas of personal and professional development. So for today's topic, unknown to many or forgotten by many, my original background is I'm trained in the life sciences, specifically in the line of medical parasitology. And I want to tell us that our bodies, living inside our body is a difficult thing. If I took you and made you somehow live inside your body, you'd die. It's a very traumatizing space to be. There are cells, for instance, whose name is just called natural killer cells. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand what that means. Their work is nothing else but to kill. There are cells whose mode of killing is non-specific, like anything that looks foreign, they will just spray and kill. Your body is constantly moving. Cells inside you are quickly replacing. That's part of the mechanism to defend you. Inside you, especially in your gut, is very mucousy, so that it's very slimy. Things to stick is difficult. I believe you get the picture that whether it's in your blood or in your gut or anywhere, most of the places inside your body, it is very difficult to live. It's very traumatizing. But that notwithstanding, there are organisms that try to live inside. We generally call them parasites. And they, because of the nature, the very offensive nature of the inside of your body, I think parasites got the memo that says when they learn to shoot without missing, you learn to fly without resting. So they've developed a full range of mechanisms to adapt. One very interesting one is how they've learned to attach, especially looking at, for instance, gut parasites, the ones that live in various places within your alimentary canal. Now, your alimentary canal, for the most part, is mostly in movement. Then it's mucousy, and then there are a lot of things happening in there to protect you. So to live in that space, parasites have developed one of three things. One is they either use hooks. So if you look around their head region or around their mouth, they have hooks that allow them to then hook into, beyond the mucus that is protecting you, they hook now into the fleshy part of you. Others have developed suckers. The best way to think of suckers is when you think of those fake hooks we put on walls that one side has a thing that just sucks air and sticks on the wall. That's a way to think about suckers. So some parasites have developed suckers that, again, do the exact same thing. They help them suck and stick in, at a place, and they can take in the nutrients for that point, detach, and then go move and stay somewhere else. And then a third category have developed what are called adhesives. For those who that is very big English, adhesives is loosely like glue, something that just helps them basically attach. So remember those three things: hooks, suckers, adhesives. They are different in morphology, that's how they look, and they are different in modes of action, that's how they function, but they are all for one purpose: to help the parasites be able to attach in an otherwise very, very hostile, constantly moving, extremely traumatizing environment. Because of living in these spaces, many parasites have then evolved. I use that word very carefully because I know it elicits different feelings among people, but the basic meaning of evolved here is they've developed changes. So your gut is very dark, dark, like literally there's no light there. Enzymes do not need light to work. And so many parasites that live within your gut are blind, therefore. So besides attaching, They've lost sight because they don't need to use it. What's more interesting is because some live within, say, the small intestines where they absorb food, many of those parasites that live there have lost their ability to digest. Because why digest? Why learn to digest when you're living where everything has already been digested? So I know I'm taking you into an unexpected heavy science class, but just think about that for a minute. Hooks, suckers, adhesives to try and live in this traumatizing experience. And then after attaching in those places and living in those places for quite a protracted amount of time, changes happen to them. Some have lost their ability to digest. All they do now is absorb. Some have lost their ability to see because they're living in an extremely, they've attached into an extremely dark space. So like parasites, so is it with many human beings. Some of the spaces we've lived in, and because this series is about family, can be almost like living within a human body. There are siblings who are natural killer cells. There are parents who are very abusive. Home is constantly in flux. And even others that look stable on the outside have nuanced things that are happening in the inside. And because we want to exist within the home spaces, we have, in many cases, adopted attachment mechanisms to try and help us get there. Some may be hooks, in quotes, others may be adhesives, in quotes, others may be suckers, in quotes. But what we don't realize is that the attachment and detachment mechanisms, which our able panelists will go to unfold, has a long-term effect on us. But maybe some of the mechanisms we have adapted to thrive in the flux of our home situations have ended up making us blind to, say, opportunity or our capability or our power or our potential, or has made us become absorbers instead of digesters, or to put it in another way, has made us become reflectors of thought rather than thinkers. And therefore, our ability to adapt and move across spaces or in the continuum of life is jeopardized. And when we follow the breadcrumbs backwards, it has everything to do with how we learned to attach or detach to exist within the family trauma. The final statement or analogy I'll give is going to be very touchy-feely, but no makasiriko here. Maybe one place to see this, and I hope a lot more research can be poured into, is when you specifically look at our history as a Black people, and here I'm narrowing down to my own native country, Kenya, and more specifically our struggle for independence was led by, was fought on many fronts, to be honest. One was diplomatic, but then another one was military. And the military side was led by the Mau Mau. They are among the most prominent, although they're not the only people who physically fought the British colonizers. Koitalel, Arap Samoei, the Orkoyots, Lenana, all had fought, done their beating, moving this particular resistance. Mekatilili Wamenza, a woman, led the whole thing and was imprisoned in Kismayo. But let me focus on Mau Mau and their undeniable contribution to the struggle. Because of the nature of the Mau Mau struggle, for those who don't know what the Mau Mau is, it was a guerrilla of people, mostly drawn from the inhabitants of what is presently the Mount Kenya region of Kenya. So it was the Meru, the Embu, the Kikuyu, who are members of the Mau Mau, and they fought in an area spreading largely from Naivasha to Laikipia and Othaya, and all that entire mountain area is where so the present day Mount Kenya counties is where the Mau Mau war was. And because it was bush warfare, two things began happening. Is one, we had what we could loosely call Mau Mau widows. In other words, women who are married, but their husbands had gone out into the field to fight. There's no guarantee of them coming back. Their children may never see them again. And these women would sneak food or medicine and stuff like that. And you had to learn to put your feelings very loosely. A part of me looks at my Kikuyu brothers and sisters, and I have very many, my long-standing desk mates and deskmates were Kikuyus. And when you look at present-day Kikuyu land, you begin seeing perhaps the long-term effect of what the Mau Mau uprising and how the detachment and reattachments happened there ended up affecting a whole community for a mighty long time. For one, in terms of percentage of women-led households, Mount Kenya has the most. For second, in order to cope, Mount Kenya region, for instance, has a lot of problems with alcohol and alcoholism. And we've not paused and done what we did in our previous meeting. We've probably not called ourselves for a meeting and begin tracing where the rain began beating this particular community. It's probably the attachments, reattachments, and detachments that happened during the struggle. Let me finish with an anecdote I watched in the movie 300. Yes, I from time to time do watch movies. And I remember in the movie 300, the king who's going to lead out the war is bidding his wife farewell. And the narrator says something like, they both know that they will not see each other again, but empathy here is something that has little time to go. So that was a community where people were born knowing the value of life was so little, and therefore attachment, and with it, loyalty was put at a really low premium. In other words, if we don't deal with the question of how we attach, detach, reattach within the fluxes of life, we could easily end up with the extremes of what Mau Mau has produced on us, with the 300 kind of situation. And it's therefore time we needed to have this authentic conversation. So back to you in studio.
Thank you. On behalf of Professor Stambale, who got a OG warrior, those things crazy gives, and Dr. Mukoko, they'll be very proud of your parasitology. Mgeni siku ya kwanza, Hamida, with that speech, we always start with Saya's speech because he gives us like very many things that it keeps us thinking and keeps us on our toes. But now let's swing to the psychology side and ask what is attachment, what are attachment theories, and you'll start off with giving us a background about yourself. I'd like not PCA preaching background, but just a short bio. Kazi kwako.
Hello, everyone. So as you've heard, my name is Hamida Ahmed. I'm a psychologist by profession, a consultant psychologist. I have my private practice, which is Tulivu Counseling and Wellness Services. I work with children, adults, couples, families, and I love facilitating training in mental health topics and at the workplace. So I do a lot, a former teacher, so I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy interacting with people. Yes, so that is the introduction. And maybe to answer your first question, Posa, what is attachment? Attachment is just in very basic language, it's just emotional bonding, emotional connection. As human beings, we are emotional beings. We are social beings. We thrive by connecting with each other and supporting each other. So that is basically what attachment is. And a lot of studies have been done about attachment right from birth. And we're realizing that attachment is not just at the younger ages, it also has an impact. And a lot of research has also been done about adult attachment, that whatever attachment we end up with as children has an impact on who we become, how we show up in relationships as adults. So different attachment styles, secure, where, as a child, a child learned that, if I have needs, my primary caregiver, if I cry, they'll come and pick me. If I'm hungry, I'll be fed. If I am wet, I'll be changed, and over time, they become trusting and they begin to trust this caregiver. And, they begin to trust themselves. They feel safe enough and also trusting the caregiver and the environment. And the environment is what? Is basically the world. So they trust themselves, but also trust the world. But you also have other, other types of attachment styles, like the dismissive, avoidant attachment style, the preoccupied, or some will call it the anxious attachment style, and also the fearful, some will call it avoidant, some will call it also disorganized, fearful, avoidant, or disorganized attachment style. So this is just an introduction. I hope we'll, talk a little bit more as we move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mukimba, if you can add on to that, and who's attaching to who, or what is attaching to what? Is it is it parent child, or is it me and my very good friend Catherine and Emma? Who's attaching to who and why? I know it's for emotional purposes, but why?
Okay, so I think the first thing I was really excited to hear was Saya's analogy for the parasites. I honestly, I went there. I went into the guts and I was like, whoa, I swear I had never thought about that analogy, but it just took me some places. Before I forget, my name is Mukimba Rahedi. I am a counseling psychologist. I am also a mental health educator. I love talking all things mental health. I get really excited when I get to teach people how to be as mentally healthy as possible. I have a bias for younger adults, so I really love teaching younger adults how to probably not get into as much trouble as possible by not looking after their mental health. I have a platform, Pink Amazon Therapy. Yes, I offer counseling services and mental health education continuously. So attachment styles and family trauma. So the family system is so impactful in how we respond to the world, yeah? So our brain is like this overly eager child in the classroom, right? And it always tells you it has the answer, right? Whether or not it is right or it is wrong, it is the answer that it believes to be true. So for a child who grew up in an insecure environment, an environment where they didn't feel safe, whether it's by their caregiver, right? Or also sometimes the environment that they lived around, because sometimes we blame just the parent and the caregiver situation, but there's a lot more to that. There's the whole family system, there's the extended family system, what they saw their neighbors doing and all that stuff. Whether I felt safe as a child, I think it's easier to use me. So whether I felt safe as a child, right, is now my quick answer. My brain just quickly raises its hand and tells me how to respond to people who remind me of the environment, and as well, how important I consider the connectivity. Because Hamida mentioned very many types of attachment styles. And sometimes you find people being very secure friends, right? But being very insecure in romantic attachments. Yeah, there's a dog barking. There's a dog barking in the background. But so basically, I hope we can still hear me.
Yes, you can.
Okay, so the way it depends on the priority. When we prioritize this, and especially when as a result, we are worried about our safety, right? And obviously romantic attachments, that's where they bring out the ugliness in us, right? They bring out all that stuff. Our insecurity really bears true in romantic attachments, because that's where we prioritize, right? It's really important to us. So as a friend, I can be a very secure friend. None of my friends will have noticed my anxious or my avoidant tendencies. But as a partner, it quickly, because this is really important to me, in my hierarchy, as a parent, yeah? So now I'm showing up the way I have grown up living, and my level of security, either now I become an anxious parent, right? Or an avoidant parent, because these relationships are important to me. So in the family setting, that's where the basis starts to come clear, especially when now we are transferring. We may have caught it from society and also the family that we were in. But how we show up most of the times, because we know how to cognitively, we know how to be safe and secure. We know how to pretend, we know how to wear those masks of security. But our insecurity really pops right out when we are in our home base, our family systems. That's when now we notice our anxious tendencies just raising our hands, and that overly eager child is like, here, I have the solution. This is how we are not going to get hurt, or this is how to keep us from getting hurt. So anxious, for people who want to identify with some of this attachment styles, an anxious attachment style will tend to have the more clingy tendencies, right? They'll want to hold on to it at any cost, even when things are not working, even when their own safety is in danger, right? They will hold on to anything, and that's when manipulation comes in, because most of the times we think anxious just has to be, you know, the girl who makes many phone calls. I feel like the movies have also made it very easy for us to kind of brand certain attachment styles, but an anxious person will learn how to manipulate. They'll learn how to use very covert systems to make sure that they are kept attached to whoever they consider their sense of security and safety. An avoidant person has the same emotions going inside them as the anxious person. They don't feel safe. But now, in order to make sure that they feel safe, their idea is like Saya had said about, like, let's say like the Kikuyu women. I'd never really thought about it like that. But yeah, you learn to be independent. You learn to be, I don't need anybody, right? You learn to push people as far away as possible because this is for your safety. You've learned that you cannot rely on people. That's already been given. That's the evidence you have. So you learn to push people as far as possible. But the need for connectivity, like Hamida said, the need for emotional connection, it still exists really deep inside. And research has shown that even avoidant people tend to find themselves, especially if they're distracted by something else, let's say a loss or grief, they just also go into their anxious systems. They activate their anxiety. And the secure is what we all want to be. It's the mask we wear because we know that's what is good for us in society. It's somebody who feels that the world is a safe space, that even though things are difficult, that they will manage, they have the tools. So mental health professionals come in and we create coping tools, we create a system and a comfort inside you in order to now bring you back to a place where you feel safe enough to explore and allow people in, but without feeling the need to control and keep them in place for, I guess, eternity. So I hope that was a bit of a better explanation, of a good explanation for the attachment theory.
Okay, thank you. It was. I just wanted then to get the meat and bones of all these attachments. So there are basically how many types? 4? I mean that there are 4. Okay, so let's.
Four main ones. Yeah. 4 main ones. Yes.
Okay,
so
let's just go to the meat and bones of each. And if there's a Kenyanese attachment, throw it in because we are different and we are proud to be different. So let's start with the, because medical school, you start with the normal, then you go to the abnormal. Let's start with the secure, what we want almost everyone to be. How cause effect, as in what happens, how do I get secure and how do I show up in the world? This, and then we go through all of them and see, yeah. And if anyone, and you can ask questions in the chat, and if you're not sure, you can always raise your hand and we will give you the chance to speak. So Hamida, kazi kwako, anza na secure.
Sawa. So I think I would really want to go back to, the parenting and how the children are raised right from home, and when you're talking about secure attachment, we're talking about an environment where there's this child who has been born. Remember, we are a product of both nurture and nature. And now in this forum today, we're looking at the nurturing aspect of it. So this child has come with their with their biological makeup and all that maybe we do not have so much control over, but then we are providing this environment that they are growing in. So you have a child who comes and they have their basic needs. They want to feed. When they cry, somebody shows up and they're fed. When they need to be changed, like I said, somebody shows up and that is done for them. When they need to be held, yeah, and connect, that is done. So what is the possible outcome of that? This child ends up feeling safe in this environment, feels, there's predictability in this environment. Yeah, when I cry, I know somebody will show up. When I need this, somebody will respond to me in a positive way. Yeah, so this person ends up feeling very positive about themselves and positive about the world. Their worldview, we see it as positive, both to themselves and to the others. Okay, so there's levels of low anxiety because there's predictability. Yeah, they feel comfortable, and of course their self-confidence is up. So you find that when this person grows up and they have the same kind of secure, attachment, this is the kind of person that will be in a relationship and will be very confident because they know how, what their worth is, who they are, how they want to be treated. But they also respect the other person and see them from a positive light. Okay. And, and like in other attachment styles, when, for example, a partner wants to go away on their way, and this person becomes very anxious and very insecure about the partner, when it comes to the secure attachment person, they are very secure in themselves. It's not about the other person. If the other person wants to stick with me, they know what my value is, and they're going to stay. If they go, then it's not meant to be. So this is the kind of way that this person is reasoning. It doesn't mean that they are fully protected from pain. It doesn't mean that they will not grieve. They will, but they're able to bounce back, a little bit easier than the others who have a negative perception about themselves. So in secure attachment, there's a feeling of safety, comfort. It's like I can rely on my partner and my partner will show up for me. Okay. And it's okay. It's a reciprocal kind of relationship. I give and they give, and it's okay. If it works out, good. If it doesn't work out, good. There's that sense of, security and not seeing the world as a bad place. Yeah. So, but if you look at the other one, for example, the dismissive or avoidant kind of attachment, if we go back to maybe to the childhood level, maybe this is the kind of child who used to, would cry and maybe nobody really showed up to take care of their needs. Yeah. So over time, what do they learn? And I feel it's important for me to mention that, in our Kenyan context, we use a lot of, outside help to help us raise our children. So different people with different attachment styles, with different perceptions of life show up in our children's lives. So you may be working very hard, providing everything material for your child, but then the child is lacking when it comes to the emotional connection. So we have to think about the caregivers. And I'm not just saying, it's not just the parents, it's the people who are surrounding our children, the nannies that we bring to take care of ourselves. Do you even know what kind of attachment style that your nanny has? And sometimes maybe they show you a different side of themselves when you're around, but they're totally different when you're gone. Yeah, you find that when you come home, then your child is clinging at you because they have not, because of the experiences they've had with the nanny. So, and it's not just the nanny. Sometimes the parents are not in a good place themselves. We have parents who are addicts. We have parents who are struggling with mental health issues. We have parents who are away looking for money the whole day, and sometimes they come very late in the evening and the child is already asleep. So you can see the dynamics in our homes are different, but they do have an impact on our children, okay? So the avoidant one learns, by the way, I'm in this alone. I have to figure out how to survive by myself, yeah? And that's why you can even see from the avoidant, perspective, they avoid now, you know, reaching out because they're tired. They realize it doesn't matter how much I reach out, nobody is coming to save me, yeah? So they begin to develop their own muscle depending on themselves and trusting themselves. So they have a very positive perception of themselves, but a very negative perception of others. It's like, I cannot rely on another person to take care of me. So how does this person then show up in relationships? And you remember, it is not just romantic relationships. We're talking about this adult as a partner, as a parent, as a sister, as a friend. How do they show up? How do they connect with other people? How do they bond with other people? Okay, so they feel self-sufficient. They work very, very, very hard to make sure that they will not need somebody else, right? And they avoid emotional intimacy. You may find that this person, even if they end up getting married, you will never see that, that vulnerable side of them, because they are shielding themselves from getting hurt. So they might be just on the surface for survival, but it's very hard. Or even if it's a colleague and you are very tight, you're friends, but then you will never even know where this person lives. When they are going through problems, they'll never tell you, yeah, because they don't feel that that the other person or other people will understand and will come to their rescue. You can already see from childhood, and now this is an adult still displaying the avoidant way of communicating, okay? And they don't really, you'll not find them chasing, emotional or intimate relationships so much. They are very guarded, yeah. So I've talked about the two secure and the avoidant, that is dismissive kind of attachment. Do you want me to continue, or?
I just want let me reshare the screen. I wanted to relate back to, we've used this in the past in a parenting class. How do you relate as in, do you use this triangle to get secure children, or is this useless? Like, do we, because we learned how to regulate, relate, and reason. Is this like a template for us to get into the secure attachment kind of parenting? Bruce Perry uses it a lot. He has a book he wrote with Oprah.
So let me just, because let me maximize my screen. I cannot be able to see the diagram. Or what is the name of the diagram? Maybe I can look it up.
The 3 R's. Let me put it on the chat.
Okay. I have the challenge with my eyes.
Yes.
The 3 R's of what?
The 3 R's of reaching the learning brain. It's a model used or used in parenting so that we can get secure children. Because what happens in most of our African or any kind of parenting, we start with reasoning, the kuchapa bit, before we regulate and relate with our children.
The 3 R's. It's about the 3 R's.
Yeah, it's the 3 R's. R's.
Okay.
Yes, I really my R's, nicely R's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah. Regulate, relate, and reason. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course, that has a huge effect or impact on the trust that our children end up developing. Because if we are not the way we approach discipline. And unfortunately, in our context, it is not just discipline, it is punishment. Then you can already see where the challenge can come in. At what point does my child feel safe enough, to trust me? Because if my child does not trust me, then the tendency of them developing the other, avoidance or anxious or disorganized kinds of attachments is very high. But if I am present, I support them, because let me tell you, it doesn't matter who we are. One of the things that I've noticed in life is that, we all want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be validated. Yeah, it's I can see you, I hear you, I feel you, and I validate who you are as a person. Yeah, that's why it is very, very important for us to support the children with the 3 R's. So that's a tool that we give them in order for them to feel like they have, a sense of self-control. We're supporting them with that kind of a tool. And they grow up feeling, much more confident. It's like, okay, emotions are okay, but I'm able to regulate myself and I'm able to take care of myself. It's not the end of the world, right? But you see, it takes a lot of maturity, a lot of growth on the part of the parent to be able to deliver that to the child. Yes, so I do agree that it has a place in the attachment styles. Yes. Okay.
Mukimba, if you want to add on to what Hamida has said and then touch on the other 2 main types of attachment styles and how, as in cause, effect, and how it shows up later.
Okay. I actually wanted to note, there's something I've noted in today's culture. It makes it very easy for you to be avoidant, yeah? Especially in romantic attachments. I think avoidance has become also a cultural norm. Some research should be done into that, because modern day dating sounds like it's basically just a bunch of avoidant people trying to get at a bunch of avoidant people, and it's a mess. But there's not so much to add into it. Avoidance, yes, come from an insecure environment. And I think there's some inner vows that come into play there where, since mommy or daddy didn't give me the love and affection that I wanted, because it hurt. It hurt when I asked for it and I didn't receive it. So I just make a decision right there and then, and I'm like, no one, I will never need anybody to ever validate my existence, yeah? I will never need anybody for connection. And that little boy or little girl who says that makes sure that they never need anybody for that connection, and they never have to ask anybody else for help, and they're Miss Independent, or either they're going out there and they're misusing a lot of people to ensure that they can get what they want, while still supposedly protecting their feelings, yeah? For the secure, gosh, it is what we all want to be, yeah? And most of the times we have our insecurities activated, and like Hamida said, even secure people, it's not that they are these people living so far above the realm, yeah? They feel feelings, they feel rejection, right? But they feel safe enough to bounce back, to have resilience. For the avoidant, and for the anxious, right? This is that little kid who cried and cried for hours after mommy left. And she cried and she cried and she cried, and nobody came to give her a hug. And then she learned something, right? That after a while, right, of enough crying and enough desperation, yeah, she probably got just a little bit of some type of attention, just a little bit of love, yeah? And we see her in her, okay, I'm using the female, but obviously anxious people can also be male. But think about this girl, when she gets into her teenage years, she finds out the way to get attention, right? She notices if she's pretty and she wears nice clothes, right? And she gets a little bit dolled up, she gets just a small amount of attention, right? And she will desperately cling onto any form of that attention because it made her feel good. Remember, she's still that little girl who had cried for hours, and this is the little sunshine she has gotten in a very, very dark place of no attention. And as she grows up, that's how she learns. So any small amount of attention or any small amount of affection that is doled out to her, she will take it. She will take it and she will run with it. And she will hold on to it any lengths possible. She will pretend to be anybody you want her to be in order to fit into the space of quote unquote love. And most of the time, anxiety and our insecure attachments, I will be honest, in friendships, they can also show up, but they really, really show up in romantic attachments. That's even when you may have thought your whole life you're a very secure person, right? And then when the threat of love, the threat of connectivity gets like that, it's threatened to be taken away, then we get activated. We get our attachment systems activated. In safe spaces, we may never actually feel activated. So sometimes when you see the anxious girl get with the avoidant boy, right? It's a crisis, yeah, because she's fully activated. But the anxious girl could find the secure guy and he could keep reinforcing, love and commitment, and he's open and he's willing. And she may never even realize that she has an anxious attachment style because she's in a safe space. When that's also really key to note with attachment styles is that in safety, most of us show up securely. In a safe space, in a space where we are receiving the same amount, especially for those who are asking for that connection. We're receiving it and we're getting it. We are able to just give it just as well as we are receiving it. But when it's put at threat, let's say an avoidant personality and an anxious personality, especially insecure personalities when they come together, and there's loads of people, maybe they've even come from a previous relationship that activated their attachment system. And now all of a sudden they don't have a secure base. And now we're just passing along trauma all through to each other. So yes, for anxious, it's that I picture that little girl who she will take anything that she can get and she will run with it and she'll hold on to it for the life in her. And most of the time she'll get lost in situations, even in friendships, in the desperation that somebody just gives her that love and affection or gives him that love and affection. And when it is threatened, there's a lot of anxiety involved. There's a lot of feeling rejected and lack of self-worth. And it's a very downward spiral if they receive the rejection. Yeah.
And is there another attachment style?
The fearful, I refer to the fearful as a really odd mixture of anxious and avoidant. And I think at the beginning I had said that they've done research and noticed that the fearful might be just that avoidant attachment style who, when something is threatened, let's say they go through maybe loss or grief or having some sort of identity crisis, they need connection. We all need connection. And because they've been trying to suppress that so desperately, it shows up. Their anxiety, their insecurity, they've been masking it as Mr. or Miss Cool Guy or Miss Independent, and they don't need anybody. But when life is throwing at you some difficult moments, that is the fearful attachment style. They come in the case where now the anxiety is activated and so they're disorganized. You're like, okay, I thought you didn't need anybody here, and now you're crying and you really want all this love and attention and you would do anything for it. But most of the times we all need connection. That is just the reality. And I'm really sorry for the dog. And that's just the reality, that we need connection. And I even lost my train of thought. We need connection. And when the fearful person most likely is just the avoidant person who their mask has been torn off. Their mask has been ripped off because of crisis. And now we can see that they want that connectivity and they want that attachment. And that's why they are showing up in some sort of anxious methods. But sometimes they also expose an avoidant personality. But at the end of the day, all these, even the insecure people, they still want that love and affection and in a safe space. That's why it's good to go to therapy if you can manage. It's good to do that healing work because it is possible for all of us to be secure. Yeah. And in a safe space, we can create that safe space for the next person. Being a secure person also allows the people around us to also show up a lot more securely.
My other question is, you keep mentioning, and this is to both of you, Hamida and Mukimba, you keep mentioning that these attachments show up in relationships. Where else, and this is for my love for my friends in the HR, Grace, I've seen you here, and my love for teachers, my sister is here. I mean, these things show up in their space, but how do they show up in the teaching, the people who suffer, the teaching and the HR professions? How do they show up at our workplaces and our educational institutions? Hamida, you can start.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, at some point, it's not just in romantic relationships. It is about us as parents. It's about me as a colleague. It's about me as, my position at the workplace. It is me as a boss, yeah? And the kind of attachment style that I show up with. If I am positive about who I am, and I am positive about other people, then I'm going to be supportive. It is very interesting that you've mentioned the HR. I work with the staff from different organizations, and it's, to me, it's just surprising that HR is meant to support their staff, but it's very, very, very interesting to hear the kind of stories that people share with me that they've gone through the experiences of HR, who are supposed to be supporting them or helping them in different ways, becoming the tormentors and victimizing members of staff, which is quite sad. So you can imagine, I mean, you show up with who you are. Yeah. If you are a HR and you're secure within yourself, then there's a possibility that you're going to be one of the best HRs. You're going to support the members of staff. You're going to listen because you see yourself from a positive point of view, and you also see them from a positive point of view. If you're avoidant, then you might, because you don't want to show your weaknesses, you might act as this, know-it-all or perfect person, but see other people from a negative perspective. So you might not really know how to engage or relate or, connect with the members of staff. There's going to be that disconnect because you don't know how to fully connect with the other person. You're avoiding, you're avoiding those kinds of close interactions. So you're making decisions based on how you see yourself as positive and how you see others and the world being a negative place. So, but if you are anxious, I can only imagine, where you might end up, doing so much to people please because you're looking for that attention. And in the process, you might make mistakes. You might make serious mistakes because you're going over and beyond. And you can imagine not receiving that back. What does that make you feel as a person? Yeah, you're always going over and beyond, trying to make the other people happy because you don't feel good about yourself. Yeah, so you might show up in that way. And then the disorganized one might just bring a lot of disorganization because they don't have a positive perception about themselves and they don't have positive perception about others. So they don't really know where they stand, or it's like they do not have principles. Yeah, the avoidant might be too principled. It's like things have to be done like this without connecting with people on the people level. Remember, we've always, for years, people really invested in the issue of IQ, academic intelligence. But now in the 21st century, emotional intelligence is key. So if somebody is avoidant and they do not, their emotional intelligence is quite low, as a boss, as a HR, as a partner, as a parent, then the relationship will struggle. Yeah. If somebody is low on emotional intelligence and they have negative perception of themselves, and they have the anxious kind of attachment style, then you can see the imbalance there. Yeah.
And Mukimba, the same thing. How do we equip our HRs and our teachers to recognize these attachment styles and how they're affecting their staff, the teachers themselves, and the students and workers in general?
So like you said, awareness is definitely going to be an amazing place to start. Yeah. Allowing them to be able to identify what this looks like. Yeah. And it was nice that Hamida gave those very, very distinct examples, that it's easy to pinpoint this one, this is what's going on. This one, this is what's going on. Yeah. But training at the end of the day makes such a huge difference, that regardless of how I do show up, right? Can I secure my safety in this moment in time? And can I be able to trust that I am in a professional working environment? This is now especially for the HR or even for the teachers, right? Knowing that you're holding the lives of these children, and you're going to affect also how they respond to other people. How can I train? How can I understand how to show up more securely, right? Because secure is where we want. That's the middle point, because we note that a secure attachment will be able to influence other people to turn into secure spaces. In therapy, we do call, like, the people who do intervene, even in the lives. Let's say you have a home life for a student, for example, and you're a teacher, and you have the home life of a student who has a very difficult upbringing, and they could easily either be an anxious or an avoidant attachment style. But you come in, yeah, and you learn how to show up for this child, how to intervene into this whole ACEs experience that they're having, right? And you can make the difference, be in that secure space, whether or not it may be what you think is your original temperament. Training and teaching these people and equipping them to be able to have, like you've written, EQ, a high emotional quotient, right? Being able to understand how to show up more securely, because that does influence the way all these systems will work. In a corporate, it cannot work if, the manager is a people-pleasing person who cannot be able to stand up for themselves, right? And it also cannot work if there's a tyrannical person who does not listen to anybody else's intake, right? But it works if there is synergy and there's symmetry and people are able to exchange ideas. But security can only be imposed if the people who are in leadership, the parents, the teachers, the HR managers, even the other branches managers, right? If they come into a place where they have been trained, and they as well will influence the people under them to also show up more securely, even in the work environment. And sometimes it also trickles back down into the homes. Yeah. So the training, equipping them with as much resources and tools. And again, in a safe space, most of us show up very securely. Most of us have that cognitive. I think in IFS last week, we talked about it, that at core, we are confident, we are courageous, we are compassionate, we are open to love and affection. But when we're trying to protect ourselves, when our safety is in danger, when we're in survival mode, we quickly go to those places, to those systems, whether it's the attachment, the anxious one, or it is the avoidant one, in order to kind of secure our own safety. However, it's not functional in that space.
My other question is, so how do you differentiate attachment styles from other disorders, personality disorders, mental illness? Like, I know it's a hot topic, it's a huge topic, but just non-SDA, non-PCA summary, and non-long Imam speech summary. Hamida.
Okay, Hamida, take this one.
Yes. I mean, what I've seen is like, especially the disorganized one, personality, yeah? There is the high risk of ending up with an antisocial personality disorder. Yeah. So what we're saying is this: it's not a direct link, but there's that when people have insecure attachment styles, then their risk becomes higher when it comes to mental health issues. Just basic things like depression, anxiety. So if somebody already has, an anxious, attachment style, you can imagine, yeah, even during COVID, I don't even know how that person was able to cope, because they are constantly very anxious. They're triggered. The anxiety is triggered, by very many things. So basically what we're saying, insecure attachment styles, because we have the secure one, which is one, and the insecure ones, the avoidant, the anxious one, the disorganized one, then there's the high risk of finding themselves in struggling with other mental health issues. It is not a guarantee, we're not saying that, but we're saying there's now the the risk goes up. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that your question, Wasa?
Yes, it's my question. Okay. So of course we have identified the problem and how it shows up, but for the sake of everyone and my relatives, this time the village is Eshinamwe. Every week I have a different village. Eshinamwe, in my auntie in Eshinamwe, how do I give her the tools to be secure, to get that secure attachment, and to make sure her children and her lineage are secure? And for the people, wale wamepitwa na wakati, there's no better word, wale wamepitwa na muda, like if I'm 40, how am I able to go back and get, if I'm anxious, if I'm disorganized, can I like learn how to be secure? What are the tools you can give me without paying cash to come and see you? And my auntie.
So maybe if I can start, Mukiba, I can say, first of all, I think one of the areas of focus is in parenting. Let's start from the root cause of all this. So if we can encourage or, create a lot of psychoeducation, or create a lot of awareness of the impact of parenting on the children, the long-term impact, I think that's very, very important, because even it's not just about the low income, parents. It's also about the very, very high, influential, powerful parents in our communities who also end up, making these mistakes without, and we are not coming from a place of blaming the parents. We are coming from a place of, just learning together and saying, hey, we need to pay more attention. It's not about the latest PS4, 5 or whatever, or the Xbox or whatever. It's about, how do I emotionally engage with my children, and what are the impact of that. So parenting sessions, parenting classes, parenting coaching, I feel is a very, very important area. Remember that we never used to struggle as much as we are struggling right now, because we were much more communal. When I had a child, it was expected that my sisters or my aunties or whoever would play a role in raising my child. But now we're moving to this individualistic society where when I have my child, I only have, very few people around me to support me, and maybe the nanny who is probably a stranger to me. So we are finding ourselves, in these tight corners. So we don't have those opportunities to learn as parents or support. So we need to invest in learning about parenting. Okay. And the ones who have grown up, if I find myself in a certain, insecure kind of attachment styles, it is not all lost. It is, remember, the plasticity, capability of the brain. We can always learn new things, and we can also unlearn some of those things that we have grown up, believing. So there's a lot of hope that it is very, very, very possible for you to work on yourself and remember that and realize that you are the most important person in your life, that you matter, that you deserve to be happy, yeah, and and not being trapped, in that prison of your childhood, yeah. Your parents raised you a certain way, you ended up a certain way, but you do not have to remain there. There is a lot of hope. You can now take over from there and work on yourself, invest in yourself. But of course, it starts with self-awareness. We need to be self-aware. Once you are self-aware, then you know specifically, what am I working on as a person? Because as much as we may be having these insecure attachment styles, I'm sure they're not exactly the same. We're all individuals. We're all very, very different. So there's a lot of hope in unlearning. There's a lot of hope in learning new ways. There's a lot of hope in building ourselves to be a better version, upgrading ourselves every time. Yeah, so if you're able to get support from a therapist or somebody else who can walk this journey with you, or just you doing a lot of research for yourself and finding out what is out there that can help me as a person grow. But you don't have to stay there. There's a lot of hope. You can become whoever it is that you want to become. Yeah.
Okay, so we ought to be curious. Even my the aunt will be curious to know what's out there. Okay, I think we can cultivate that in the society. Mukimba, do you have any tools for my Senje?
Okay, so I think I'd say this. Me, honestly, this tumchais, they need to have more of those. Yeah, this tumchais seated, all of them together. I think most people think their trauma story, right? They don't even know it's trauma, right? They don't even know the way they respond. And sometimes you find that because that self-awareness is innately in us. Yeah. Most of us do feel some semblance of guilt behaving in ways we cannot explain, yeah? And you're like, why did I do that? That was not my intention, right? So when they have kachai together under that tree, they're all of a sudden, they're like, okay, so maybe that's why. Maybe it's because this happened to me and I can do better, right? So when those conversations are had out in the open, in the village square, they're able to empower people to not just think my story is so, I feel like also these ones are those two conversations in the village square, yeah? They're allowing people not to think my story is so unique and I'm the only person going through this. Because most of the times when we are living against our core self, right, there's a sense of guilt and there's a sense of emptiness that comes from the actions that we do. Because most of the times we know what's right and what's wrong, and we're so exhausted of doing the wrong thing. So that's also really helpful to think about it like that at the end of the day, at core, we desire to do the right thing. And if more conversations are had, and more people are able to have these conversations together, and auntie and her friends drinking that kachai, especially in this cold, they're able to figure out, I can do something about this. So what can be done is I can secure my safety by slowly just also prioritizing my health. I realize that when I'm exhausted, my activation is even higher. I'm more avoidant when I am overspent. So can I take some minutes? Can people switch babysitters? If my kids are with my friend this time around, then maybe, you know, we can go merry-go-rounding, right? There are always these very creative solutions to trying and making sure, because like she said, we were in a communal society, so there was very few of these problems. Moms weren't as tired. When you're in a survival mode, we show up in the worst ways possible. But when we are in a safe space, when we are well rested, we are some of the kindest and some of the nicest people you've ever met. Yeah, but get somebody who hasn't had enough sleep, who's had trauma and trauma and trauma just keep happening to them with no time for recovery. Even the nicest person will not show up in the best way possible. So just finding out that mental health is actually just about these conversations. And once they do have them, there's a freedom in realizing that there are such creative solutions that we can find together as a group under the proverbial tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just for the sake of clarification, what's the role of men in this whole attachment story thing? Because I feel like it's very mother female oriented. Wanaume wako na kazi hapa.
Mingi sana.
Wako nayo.
Mingi sana. Oh, Hamida, you go.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, sorry, Mukimba, yeah, I mean, because of our socialization again, you know, where men are not allowed to really show the emotions, that normally has a huge impact. And I work with children a lot and families a lot. And, you know, the kids will say, you know, dad is able to provide, but dad is not there for me emotionally. Why? Not because he's a bad dad, but because he doesn't know how. Yeah. And it feels like, you know, what do you mean? You know, I have to do what? I mean, I've had parents say, what? I spend time with you doing what? No. Have other better things to do. Literally saying that on the face of their children. You know, I have to educate them. You know, it's not, the kids are growing up and this is what they are saying. This is how I would want to connect with my father. It's important for you to pay attention and listen. Yeah, we don't want to start, you know, paying attention when they're in need of going to the rehab, and that's when you're waking up to say, "Oh my goodness, what happened?" Yeah, by that time, maybe it might not be very easy to win them back, but win them once they're, I mean, when they're still very young. Fathers have a huge role to play. Fathers have a huge impact on their children's well-being, attachment styles. If the father is avoidant and all that, and you know, quite quite detached and sometimes abusive, or you know, very punitive. It's like when dad comes in, everybody stops talking and it's like everyone is quiet. I mean, what does that say about you as a father? They were laughing when you walked in, but everybody is suddenly quiet. It's time for you to ask yourself questions. And you know, I hold very dearly on that saying that, you know, people will not necessarily remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel, including your children. They will remember. They will not maybe remember that toy, very expensive toy that you bought them, but they will remember that word you said that, you know, broke them, or, you know, you being absent. My dad was never there, or, you know, he never showed up. And it's interesting, even when you do workshops at the school, or even outside school, the majority of the people who show up are just the moms. Yeah, the moms, the aunties, the fathers are not really involved. So we encourage them. They are very, very important in their children's lives. We encourage them to show up, to learn how to connect. If you have your own traumas or childhood traumas, work on yourself, so that you are able to show up in a much more productive way. Yes, it's not about blaming, it's about encouraging them. Yeah.
Mukimba, as you also comment on the daddy role, how do we balance the problem of having a helicopter parent, lawnmower parent, in this place even a tramboni parent, and kudekeza mwana, and to reduce the kababa and kamama generation and attachments. I feel like there's like a very fine line we are drawing. So we are not giving our children enough calluses and muscle to be able to grow up and be independent. How do we marry the two? Like give the child the roots and wings, but and give them enough calluses, but make them securely attached. Kizungu Meisha, na saya yuko.
Sure. Okay, the calluses and the muscles. Wow.
Yes.
I think it was Hamida who had said something about the response for punishment and discipline and how different those two things are. Discipline is, I'm trying to teach you something out of this, yeah? Punishment is, you've got to pay for what you did, yes? And I think sometimes as a parent, that is such a weird balance, because sometimes we respond saying that we are disciplining, but we are angry, we are frustrated, we've not even self-cared ourselves, and it just ends up being punishment, yeah? Because we want sort of to make them feel the inconvenience that it is to us to have them do certain behaviors. So that moderation, the understanding that for me to discipline, I also have to have that awareness, asking myself, what is the goal of what I'm doing? Whether I'm giving a 2-hour lecture to my teenager, what is the goal? Ninamtolea stress, or I'm just trying to say stuff, because sometimes you're just trying to vent out your feelings and it has nothing to do with, the issue at hand, but you have a 2-hour rant, right? Or are you trying to actually achieve something? Are you trying to listen to where this child is coming from, right? And to avoid the kababa thing, discipline has to exist, yeah? You cannot, I feel like that neglecting to make your kids feel the pinch, the pinch of, their bad behavior, right? I think it's love to give them this pinch over here, not the actual pinch, right? But the repercussion for the smaller actions, so that kababa does not end up, like I recently saw a case in Kiambu where this boy literally just said the reason as to why he's the way he is. And he has such a huge long list of crimes, and it's because he was kababad. But again, there was no, the 3 R's, those didn't exist, yeah? There was just a lot of provision and a lot of not explaining and not trying to actually be impactful to your kid. All you want is your kid to like you. That's not going to get you anywhere either. Actually, most kids end up resentful with parents who've tried so hard to just, get that like, yeah? So those 3 R's, you teach them how to regulate their emotions, but you're also trying to discipline them and help them understand, what does this emotion feel, and allow them to feel stuff. Yeah, we're not here to negate the idea that having an angry moment is a bad thing, but you teach them that even when you're angry, you don't have to respond like this. Consciously, we know what it is that we need to do. Sometimes it feels like it's the larger amount of work, doing the work of actually being a parent, yeah? Because it's easier to buy toys. To be honest, it's easier to go to work and come and buy some bigger toy. Ask a stay-at-home mom, yeah? She'll tell you, I would go to work in a second and do an 8 to 5 versus sticking around and looking up. It's a lot of work. Actual parenting is a lot of work, but it has those final, good results later, yeah? So when a parent like Hamida say that, I don't have time for this, you have time for this because you'd rather do it now, right? And spend that time with your kid than, still be paying for rehab when your kid is in their 30s, still be trying to figure out what's happening with my child when they're in their 40s and they've still not figured out how to handle this life, yeah? So I feel like even the kababa generation didn't come from not being punished enough. It came from trying to replace the actual work of parenting with a lot of other things, nannies, toys, boarding school, all these other things that actually prevent you from doing the real work of parenting, which is sitting there even when your emotions are raw and showing them how to navigate through that. So Kababa does not come from gentle parenting and intentional parenting. Kababa is as a result of, trying to do everything else other than the actual sitting down and being a parent. That's my thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think my meandering head is done. Unless if there's any, yeah, my head meanders, trust me. So Hamida and Mukimba, if there's anything I've left out, and the audience here, if you have any questions, you can put up your hand. Yes, Kababa is babying a child. Yes, Mutakaro. It's I didn't want to use the Bradens and the Jadens because my very many friends were on the Aiden train, so their children are named Braden and Jaden. Yes, but it's that. So if you have any additional, Hamida and Mukimba, if there's something I missed out in my meandering head, and if the audience has a question, you can raise your hand, you can type it in. If you have my number, you can WhatsApp me, I will ask on your behalf. Hamida, kwa sababu Mukimba si ametoka kuongea tu saizi.
I think for me, it's just, these are things that nobody taught us, nobody taught us. We just, we are lucky that we're in this field of mental health, psychology, that we get to come across such very crucial information, yeah? So I think I would encourage us to, even when we choose to become parents, to do a lot of research, to invest in learning. I mean, there's so many aspects of parenting. It's not just about the financial aspect of I want to buy the best stroller, and people invest in so much, and the baby showers and There's a lot that people spend on, but they do not want to spend on the the real stuff, the real work that comes in with parenting. So if we invest in that, and we look for people to work with us, whether it is the psychologists or our friends or people who are experienced in that area, then we have a better chance of showing up in a much more intentional way when it comes to raising our children. And as adults, we need to know that it's never too late. I believe 100% it's never too late. Doesn't matter whether I am 5 or 50, I am 80, it's never too late. Working on yourself, being much more self-aware. Who am I? How do I show up? And why do I show up like this? Is there something that maybe I experienced? Was there, an attachment injury, when I was growing up, and I need to work on it? So working on yourself and giving yourself, a new lease of life, a new opportunity, starting a new chapter, getting your groove back. It's very, very, very possible because you deserve it. You're good enough. I mean, you matter. You are that important. It's very, very important for you to be authentic and to live, a life in which you are happy. It doesn't matter what mistakes that were done by the people who raised you, your caregivers. Yeah, they're human beings. I'm sure they had their own struggles. Maybe they didn't have the tools to be able to do, the job they were required to do. But then don't get stuck there. Don't get stuck there. Yeah, give yourself an opportunity. Be on the driver's seat and go to the direction that you choose for yourself. So there is a lot of hope. Yeah.
Mukimba?
So I think my takeaway for this, there was somebody who had sent me a question, and she had asked about 2 different attachment styles coming together, especially 2 different insecure attachment styles. I think what's important for anybody who is coming into their dating life, because I thrive a little bit there because I do couples counseling and I do training for relationships. So it's important to know what your wants and needs are, right? An anxious person and an avoidant person do not have the same wants and needs. And some things will just clash. And a lot of the times is, like Hamida said, nobody taught us these things. We entered for, like, our adult life was just, we were thrown into the deep end of the pool and we were told swim. And most of us were just drowning for a very long period of time before, you know, small, tiny little lifeboats of psychology or mental health education just came to save us, just in the slightest. But it's important to know what your wants and needs are. It's important to identify and be comfortable with the idea of connection and things like that, because those are important to you. And then seek out partnerships, relationships that allow you to feel safe enough to be able to thrive. Because I've said, as long as we find a safe space, most of us show up in the most safe way possible. So identifying what those safe spaces are for us and what even those safe people look like, yeah, that they can be able to get the best out of your relationships, your connections. Just seek safety, even with the people around you. There are those people who are safe. There are those people who are trying to be intentional on trying to create safe spaces for themselves and others. And as parents, it is our prerogative to make sure that the next generation does not come out the way we did. You cannot, I got distracted. Those that hang on to it. Oh, yes. I think that I'm answering that question on those who stick around to toxic relationships if they're anxious. Yes, they're anxious. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, you need to know what your wants and needs are and don't apologize for them. We want connection as human beings, and I'm not trying to negate avoidant people, but for now, for the people who are seeking active connection and connectivity and want that human connection, it's important to seek it in safe spaces, to also seek it from other safe people. Safety is important, and introducing this safety into our households, yeah? Self-care is very important. Once we love on ourselves, we show up amazingly. I'm sure, like anyone, even the meanest of person who has like a nice good sleep, yeah, and a nice massage, and we are always in our best way possible. If we learn how to hack our bodies to make sure that we feel good, we will end up also showing up very well for other people. Of course, there's a lot of inner work involved. We don't just do self-care and sleep, but it's important to be those safe spaces and make sure that we find ways to secure that safety for other people, our children, our spouses, our friends, our relatives, even our auntie, right? It's very important. Yeah, but that was my takeaway. I think I also rambled a little bit at the end, but yeah, that was my takeaway.
I just want to comment on Els, the woke generation and parents who don't want to be confronted. I think it's very many things we've discussed in the past. And I think if we create more self-awareness out here, many people are going to wake up to the fact that they are raising kababas and brats, and they will slowly and kidogo accept correction. We can't just lambast them and just pour all these things like point all the fingers to them that your child is bad. They need to get to that safe space that they can share with us their anxieties, and we can open the book and show them what is wrong and correct them. So if even if one person is changed by what we're doing, we will be happy. And is there any other question, or I need to take my tea? Even in this heat, I'm still really at heart. I will take tea, hot tea. Any question from the audience? No, hakuna maswali. Okay. In the words of my teacher, either they understood everything or understood nothing. And we thank God for either direction. So We're going to take a break next week. We will come back in August on the 7th and the following week. Due to great public demand, we are going to have a topic on father wounds, because we had a topic on mother wounds and inner child, and the other topic will be on Black tax. And if you have any topic you want discussed, the same way you got this link, that person at Anifikia. On behalf of myself and Saya, who's had other commitments, I thank the panelists, Hamida and Mukimba. Asanteni sana. You know where I am. I will reach out to you when another topic creeps up in my head. The audience, thank you very, very much for attending. And thank you, Mungu awabariki. And you can spread this, you can share it on Facebook. You can share and change one person at a time. I have noticed all the thumbs up and the love hearts. Thank you. And kwaherini. I'm gonna stop the live stream in case someone wants to ask a question that they don't want to stay in the interwebs.